Support for the Nonprofit Lab comes from grit, the courage, resolve, and strength of character that comes from facing challenges and overcoming adversity. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. Grit. Find it growing at the center of your heart, mind, and spirit. Welcome to the Nonprofit Lab, a podcast dedicated to the ongoing discovery of how we can all be a part of bigger social change through the lens of the nonprofit sector. I'm your host, Quo Practices. I'm an industrial engineer, human-centered designer, and CEO of Match Nice, a social impact tech startup with a mission to connect the nonprofit ecosystem and maximize social impact. Thanks for joining us on our startup journey as we look to uncover and shake up the status quo in the world of nonprofits. In this episode, I'm excited to get back to the roots of this podcast, which started with a focus on interviewing nonprofit leaders around the country, understanding how they got started, what keeps them ticking, and how they've turned their vision into a reality. The challenges that they've overcome, and really just this curiosity of wanting to learn as much as I can from their journey of impact in the nonprofit sector. My guest today is Omondi Peter. Omondi is a community change maker from Kenya. He is the founder and CEO of Global Youth Forum, a community-based organization based in Kenya, working to end youth unemployment in Africa by empowering youth with relevant skills to enable them to create or secure jobs through the use of sports as a vehicle for personal and professional growth and development. Omondi is an alumnus of Young Africa Leadership Initiative, which is a program launched by President Barack Obama in 2010 to produce committed young leaders to transform Africa. He's served in a number of roles in various organizations from across the world. To name a few, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal Action Campaign. He was an outreach and influencer for the Global Week for Act for SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals 2021 and 2022. He's the virtual producer for the United Nations Volunteer 2020 Global Technical Meeting on Imagining Volunteering for the 2030 Agenda. He's the Africa Region Facilitator for Tech Change, Our Voices Youth Summit in 2020, Social Hour Moderator for the United Kingdom Scouts Association, and he's an outdoor instructor contributing positively towards youth empowerment, community mobilization, and engagement across civic matters. Peter holds degrees in agricultural sciences from the University of Nairobi, and his vision is to build a self-sustaining community sports center in Kenya to help nurture talents of the less fortunate in his community, prepare them for work, and engage them to eradicate poverty in their homes through the vehicle of sports. In this episode, we cover a broad spectrum of lessons that nonprofit leaders and really anyone can take as an aspiring change maker and learn from Omondi's stories that he shares about his own nonprofit journey, including but not limited to how anyone can translate local nonprofit efforts into global impact, organically evolve and scale programming, use social media to gain supporters across borders, connect through authenticity and foster a growth mindset, and turn vision into reality through belief and action. I hope you find this interview as inspiring as I did. Here's my conversation with Omondi. Omondi Peter, welcome to the Nonprofit Lab. How are you?
I'm very okay, Puya, and it's nice to meet you again virtually.
Yeah, this is the second time we've had the privilege of connecting, and I should say for those that aren't watching on video, Omondi is standing, and I have a standing desk. So I was like, "Hey, I let's do something different. I'll stand for this episode as well." So it's great to reconnect. Tell us where you're calling from.
Oh, right. Good one. And I always love speaking when standing, by the way, Puya. So thank you for joining me on the stand. So I'm tuning in from Kenya, currently standing in Nairobi County. But yeah, that's where I'm coming from.
That's amazing. And you're actually, I was gonna say you're my first international guest, but technically I interviewed David Pisaric and he's based in Canada. But in the United States, we don't really look at Canada as like really an international country for whatever reason. They're just like above us. But it's great to have you, and you know, you have such an incredible founder story. Tell us a little bit about yourself and like your story leading up to your nonprofit, and then we can talk a little bit about your nonprofit journey. But I'd just love to hear like your personal story.
Oh, good one. So I got several stories, by the way, but I'll pick a few to share for today. So let me jump on really quick. Coming from a society, for example, growing up, but I want you to imagine where you got, you come from this community or this family, that you have to go, say, 2 to 3 days without proper meal, and you are 9 years, between 9 years to 12 years, and you go without food between 2 to 3 days. But the family expects you to go to school, pass exams, and a person like me who loves sport still go out and play that sport. For example, I loved football. So that is a society or a community I come from. So growing up, we could go, or I could go 2 to 3 days without proper meal, but still expected to go to school, pass exams, enjoy my sport, and all those sorts of things. So when I completed my primary school, my family, they did not have enough resources to take me to high school. So I did stay out of school for 1 good year, and a team from the United Kingdom, a scout group. I call myself as a proud scout. They sponsored my secondary school and university. So when I was in high school, this is where the things began and all those other things. I loved football, to be honest. So if you want to contain me in a class, just give me a football and I'll calm down. So, but then again, in there, I wasn't the best player. Obviously, you always have the first, the second, and people who sit in benches. So I'm the one who, I loved football, but then I wasn't the best. So I was on the bench every single time. But one day, my good friend, we used to play striking together, left wing, position 11. So I had to negotiate with him to allow me to join him so he could allow me to play if the team could not allow me. So then I was in high school. So I went out, he gave me opportunity, and I played first half. And that was it. So when we came back on Monday, I remember being punished for sneaking out to go and play football. So I was given 2 weeks suspension and a big tree stump to dig.
Oh, what?
And that made me quit the school team. And I went to my small village and I started my children team and I thrived in there. And I really loved that. So then I joined university after my high school. Obviously, I did try to work or give my best. And then I joined university. So university, we played this small league and small tournaments, and I did enjoy that. But this is the turning point. I did a course in agricultural sciences, but my first job was a marketing officer. And in there, I was given a role as a football coach for that institution. So I organized a tournament and raised 500,000 Kenya shillings for a drug rehabilitation center. So when my contract ended, I said, look, all my savings, I will start my small football tournament and I will be playing with these young people and having fun. So then there is where I started Global Youth Forum with a few friends. And today I'm happy speaking that we are picking momentum and I'm enjoying it every single day. But that's a short story of like how my journey has looked like this far.
Wow. Amondi, thank you for sharing that. And I have so much respect for any founder really, but your story and the way that you were able to overcome a lot of the like incredible adversities growing up with food insecurity and in an area where the opportunities weren't as bountiful, and that you were still able to take some initiative and work to identify ways to not just lift yourself up out of that situation, but then to find the like courage to lift other people up in that process and start your nonprofit is just a an insanely inspiring story. You know, one of the common themes with many founders, especially those in the nonprofit sector, are there's a personal connection back to like the why. Why is it that we're doing this work? Like, what is it that we hope to see? You know, the change in the world. What in what moment, you know, throughout that journey? I know you mentioned kind of like soccer being a huge catalyst, and or football as the rest of the world calls it. Like, was there a moment when you were growing up where you said to yourself that I want to be a change maker?
Okay, good one. So for me, I think growing up, when I was still young, I can't say I knew I wanted to be a change maker, but I felt it by the time I was, for example, just to add on my story, the football in my community, we did not have a proper ball like the Adidas ball and all this. It was handmade ball with polythene and all peppers and stuff like that. So when I was in high school, I could sneak a ball from my high school to go and play it over the weekend and sneak it back on a Monday. So, so what happened in here? Every single time on a Saturday, I could see young people or my age mates come to our door and like, Peter, it's game time. So I had that following, like people were coming to look for me, like Peter, we want to go and play, and our ball has got an issue, and we had. So I was like that person, this youth or children would come to because I could offer something. And then in there is where like I felt if these people are following me, and just to add on that, we did not have even a proper field. And there was a village field somewhere. So I collected all these youth or young people, we cleared the field and we turned it into a football playing ground.
Mm.
So my influence towards these young people made me feel like, oh, I could do something with this number. So I felt like I had something I could give. And just moving along and having these followers and all that, I felt like, I could capitalize on this to impact other people's lives and then just grow and have fun. So I think with that and my upbringing and the following I had with the young people made me feel like, oh, I got something.
I love that, and another common theme I think I'm learning from speaking with visionary and inspiring leaders like yourself is most people don't get into the world of social impact by like having this huge business plan of like this is exactly what we're going to do. It starts with recognizing the opportunity and the need and the position of where we are, and starting small. So um let's then talk about the experience of starting your nonprofit global youth forum. Can you talk about like the evolution of how you went from I've got this football and now we're gonna like make this field, and like how do you build a organization around that?
Okay, good one there again. So how this evolved, it was like my first job, which I said as a marketing officer. So I'm in here made as a marketing officer. And my role also as a football coach. And because there is where my strength lies, like bringing these players together. So I said, how could I do something that will bring students from within this city together to learn more about? I talked to them about courses being offered in these institutions while having fun. So what I used to do was organize weekly games. So I organized that and I had a collection of 32 football teams within that city, like this. So then I ask myself, what am I going to do with these 32 football teams? And I said, look, I want to organize a tournament, and this tournament, I want to give back to another community. I didn't know where. So in there, I was a patron of a Rotaract club, if you know something on Rotary and things like that. So we organize this tournament, and we bring 32 teams, and we play over 2-3 weekends. And we raise that $500,000 to that drug rehabilitation center. So then I sit back and say, hey, now I could do something and even raise money. And my contract ended. So when my contract ended, I did not have much. I had not saved so much. But I said, I want to use all this money to put a tournament together. And because these other teams, because when my contract ended, I could not use that institutional facility in there. But just knowing that my contract was going to end, I had friends within this institution. So what I did, I developed a simple constitution that I thought I wanted to implement, and I invited my friends to come and see what I had. And 68 of them came to my call, but then I was still in that institution. So I made the presentation, and out of that call, I had 30 people sign up to volunteer with me and organize my first tournament. And that was on 12th December 2015. And just for those who are watching in Kenya, 12th December is a holiday. We call it Jamhuri Day. So I organized that tournament during Jamhuri Day. And then the following year, we decided that now we want to register a community-based organization. So we registered our first community-based organization and set that structure up. And then come 2017, I said, I'm not only going to operate in this city, I want to invite friends from other cities to also register Global Youth Forum in their counties. So I managed to convince 3 youth from across Kenya, 3 counties, and they registered their own community-based organizations. And then now I measured into like now this city where I was living. And to date, we have conducted 12 tournaments, and we have a total of 108 football teams in Kenya.
Oh my gosh.
So that's like a bit of a long story of how like the evolution and testing things, trying things, not knowing what to do, but you still keep that going. Is like you experiment, make mistakes, and learn along the way. So that has been my journey, and working with the volunteers and youth who are passionate to give a hand or give support has made me get this far. So I think that is, in a nutshell, explains the journey of Global Youth Forum.
Omondi, thanks for connecting the dots between your original kind of like getting the football to creating this field and the start, raising money for that tournament to the many teams and many games that you've now hosted. I'm curious, like obviously there's a huge positive impact for youth to just get out of the home and to be on the field and to focus on something positive physically, team sports. There's so much value that comes from the just teamwork of being in a sport. What are some of the other ways that your nonprofit Global Youth Forum is working to empower youth in the communities, and how you might be using some of those funds to amplify that impact?
All right. Good question there again. So I think with Global Youth Forum, we started. It was like you are in this environment where you just want to have fun, you just want to enjoy things, you just want to engage people. But along the process, we've done that and we have learned a few things. So now what we are looking to do, look at the youth unemployment in Africa or probably across the globe. So I'm currently involved in a research to look at, for example, if you look at Kenya, 5.2 million youth are unemployed. But why are they unemployed? They say that education system is not providing the 21st century skills. So these skills are missing. Skills like creativity, critical thinking, teamwork, effective communication are really missing. So at Global Youth Forum, we now have a program that we are calling it Molding for Work. So this Molding for Work, it is a 6 months program where we are going to launch it this year. But this 6 months empowers young people with the soft skills. For example, they are graduates or they are people with qualifications, but they lack those soft skills. But through the use of the sports, how could we get them to work together? How could we get them to solve issues? And then through that, we give them these community challenges and community problems to solve. And when they graduate from this program, we are looking now to partner with corporates or industries that can give them these job opportunities, internships, or apprenticeship that can prepare them to real job. And in there, sports is really key. It's where we want to get them involved, deal with issues in the communities, work with others, and then get to the real work environment. And then they can apply these skills. So the funds we are now looking to raise, or call them resources that we are looking to raise, is to empower these marginalized youth or young people to be able to gain the soft skills and enter the job market. And that's how we are looking to scale up and apply the skills we've learned just to grow and to make an impact.
That's amazing. And I am just so impressed that you've been able to take like this very small initial idea to not only hosting these hundreds of, I'm sure, games and tournaments and raise all of the funds, but then also to stand up the programming to support career type development, soft skills development. And I think for many nonprofits, no matter where you are in the world, making that jump from like where you are to expanding your programming to offer new services or things that really serve the population that you're working with can be very overwhelming and very difficult to do. You know, you've made tremendous strides in scaling the impact and the number of people you serve and the type of services that you offer the youth through Global Youth Forum. What are some of the lessons that you've learned in that process, and what advice might you have for other nonprofit leaders who maybe are at one level of programming today and are like have a vision for what the next phase is, but you know, like are struggling to make that leap to the next level?
All right. Good question again there. I didn't think about it, but I think I got something to share. But let me start with the lessons. For example, when I was starting, I thought I was going to, like, my initial idea was in Kenya, we got 47 counties. And I knew within a year, I was going to be able to mobilize 32 teams in every single county from all the 47 counties and find a winner from each county. And then this winner would come and play at the national level. And that's why we call it Inter-County Peace Futsal Championship. So I knew I was going to do that in a year. Little did I know that 5 years, 6 years down the line, I will only have done 4 counties. So my first advice will be, don't be scared of starting. Just start. Just start. And again, don't be scared of starting small. Do just start. And the second one will be, good things do take time, and never rush anything. Just trust the process. Do trust the process. And the third thing I'll give this new people who are looking to start the non-profit is, people will reject you, but do use that as a fuel to move forward, such that you could go back to them and say, hey, I knew we didn't get really so well, and you were not so sure about where this was going to go, but here is the results. Are you able to join me and work with me again? Obviously, they'll give you yes. So never give up on things. And then the fourth one will be, never burn the bridges. You will always go back, because if you burn that bridge, you can't go back. And the last one, if it comes from inside, it's worth pursuing. It's like, let it come from inside, And then obviously you will push on. And then on to the second question you did ask, like the lessons I did, there was the lessons I did learn. One, since we started, we've never had a physical office, and it has been on mobilization online. So the lessons I learned, the power of the social media and the use of the digital tools to influence and bring communities together. And then building and maintaining, and I talk about maintaining relationships. Yes, I can connect with Puya today, and then tomorrow we are not connected. So building and maintaining relationships. And then the third lesson I learned, I learned to be patient, just be patient with myself. I might not see the results immediately, but if I keep going and keep doing what I believe in, I know I will get something. And then the other lesson I did learn, never give up. And at that time, when you are almost giving up, it's probably the right time that you will get results. So I will sum that there, but those are my lessons and a bit of tips to people who are probably looking to start a nonprofit or a social movement to drive impact in their own communities.
Omondi, that was so well articulated, and it was like a flood of wisdom that you just shared. And there's so many things that you said that I want to go back to. So I'll do my best to kind of pick a few of the things that you said and maybe explore just a little bit further. One thing I'll just say really quick that I relate to very much is like the listening to what's like inside and following your heart is like the clearest path to like what personal success can mean like for you as an individual. And when you're in line with your values and your vision, be and then what you said, like patience and being consistent and putting in the hard work, all of that is just foundational to I think being able to do the very difficult work with a smile and like having that feel in your tank. You've also mentioned a number of different like things around like a no is like not always a no, and don't burn bridges and come back to. And I love the example that you shared where you know, like coming back and saying, well, it was a no before, but let me show you the impact that I've created since our last conversation, and maybe turning that to a yes. Do you have a specific story around where you actually did that and like what the outcome was?
I got a number. I do have a number. Not sure if the sound is still coming, but I do have a number. But here is one. This company, it became my corporate of the year in 2019. It's a big company. But what happened? It took me 1 year and 18 months to just be persistent on this particular organization. So what happened? You walk in, just like you are a young person or you are energetic, you knew your idea is going to change the world. But the person sitting there is like, oh, what's this energy? Or what's all this? Can you pause a minute? So I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, I want to do football for peace. I want to do this one and that one. Could you come? Well, not now, but maybe in future. So every single day, not every single day, like on a weekly basis, I could get into the manager's office and just say hello and not even talk about football. And then there is something that clicked. I realized we shared a lot of things apart from that football. Football was a connector. He's a fan of Man City and I support Arsenal. So and he got a son as well. So I could go in and say, hey, how is so and so doing? Are they playing football? So we did that for a good period of time until now we left the project in a corner. But at some point, I came back to the project and said, hey, I'm still doing this one. Will we still work together? This company came, they sponsored 2 teams, sponsored jerseys, and they supported our molding for work by providing coaching and mentorship to our first cohort when we were doing a pilot back in 2019. And to me, that story always reminds me of never giving up. And when people tell you no, maybe they have a hidden yes, but you have to and like work extra hard to reveal that yes. So you just can't walk in a place and you're like, oh, give me this and you will get it. Just like them, they had to work extra hard. They were rejected. So sometimes they are testing your patience. And if they test your patience and you don't give up, look, they will come back again. So yeah, so that's my classic example. That corporate became my corporate of the year.
That's such a strong story and example. And I think it just emphasizes the importance of building relationships when it comes to everything, whether it's fundraising or partnerships or, your staff or whatever it is. And I like that not every conversation was about Global Youth Forum. It was, how are you? Like, how's your kid? Like, let's talk about something we share in common. But knowing that there's like a common passion and mission alignment to what you're doing, and then not forcing anything and letting it kind of build to a point where it's really hard to say no when you come back and ask again. That's such a great story, Omondi. You also mentioned as part of your message around lessons and skills that you've had to develop as a founder, the embracing like digital skills and like social media. Can you talk about what you've been doing on that front? I know I follow you on LinkedIn and you've got a massive following and have tons of engagement on LinkedIn and beyond, but talk about how like social media fit into your journey and what it's meant for you as a leader, as well as the Global Youth Forum mission.
Okay, that's again another good question there in terms of the power of social media. But just to highlight, I got currently my aim on LinkedIn was to get 10,000 followers, so I got that. So, so look, I want to touch on LinkedIn, and I want to relate this to during the post-COVID. Imagine a sports organization being told that there is social distancing, you can't go out and play football, and you can't do all these particular things. But you are an institution who believes in sport. How will you do that? So we sat down with my team then and we said, look, we can't go out, we can't play football, we can't do all these things. What are we going to do? Then we sat down and started designing online challenges. And these online challenges, I was looking at what could people do online to teach them skills on communication? What could we do online that could teach them critical thinking? And a classic example was, and this was purely on life skills and creativity. So we asked people to go design a handmade ball and just sell that ball. And as the founder, my other executive team designed the challenge. And I went in to participate as a participant. And I scored 98 points, and I felt guilty about that. But why I did that, I sold my ball higher than the Adidas ball. It is a handmade ball, but if I go buy an Adidas ball, my ball is like twice the price. So I raise more money, like more than the Adidas ball. So why the social media? We got people, we sent them to Facebook to do those challenges, connect with friends and do all those other things, just to teach them on these other skills that we wanted. And through that, we connected with other people who wanted to be part of that. And through my social media and through the things I do online, I got opportunities to even do some work with the United Nations SDG action campaign. And during these events, people come back to me and say, hey, Peter, could you support us? And through those events, currently, if you look at my board of advisors, 75% are people I met on social media. And last year, our corporate of the year came from Malaysia. And I met them during online events and through the connections I made online. And in last year, again, most of our guests for our career events, mentoring and coaching, all came from my online connections. So that is the power of the digital space in terms of the state at which we are in terms like now we are speaking, we met online purely.
We met on LinkedIn, yeah.
Yeah. So you can just see the power of the digital tools to bring this like-minded together, regardless of where they are coming from. And that's just my short story, but I do have more that social media have given me more opportunities, more of connections, more of learning. So I think it's a really powerful tool that any person working on non-profit or looking to make an impact, you can't miss out online. It's like you just jump on or get your team to get online if you can't. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I had an episode recently with someone who's saying, LinkedIn is what you have to, as a nonprofit leader, you really need to be on that platform. You really need to be using that to build connections. And it's a great way to meet people who you otherwise would have like no opportunity of meeting. And I think what I'm learning from you as well is like these borders of who can support and be part of your organization is uh it's all just mind made. Like you just said, you have a board member in Malaysia, you have people in the United States. I can't imagine how many other people across the world are coming together to support your organization. I think many nonprofits in the US are really thinking kind of geographically about like their zip code or their town or even their state, and like aren't quite maybe looking at opportunities outside of their direct immediate like vicinity. And I think you're just such a strong proof point that these social media tools like LinkedIn and like these boundaries are just kind of a figment of our imagination, and that the world is so connected now that you can really make those partnerships and identify those opportunities everywhere. And you mentioned the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals by the United Nations, and I know that Global Youth Forum is aligned to those. Can you talk about the strategy of like why you chose to align what you're doing with the Sustainable Development Goals, and how you see that being like supporting your mission delivery?
All right. Good one. So maybe I wanted to add on this one again with the power of social media and the online, the authenticity and just being real will make you
Mm.
connect with people. So just don't be fake. Be real and stand out for the right things if even no one is watching. And then transitioning onto the sustainable development goals, it is I never had this in mind, but as we move along and as I learn a number of things, as we do things at Global Youth Forum, I started getting into this picture of the Sustainable Development Goals, the UN volunteering and reading through. And I'm like, there is something that is uniting people here that I could use sports to also contribute to. If you look at the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, so for Global Youth Forum, we now have a very clear objective. We want to eradicate poverty in Africa, but we want to start with Kenya. Now, if you get to the Sustainable Development Goals, Goal 1 is no poverty. Goal 2 is zero hunger, but our focus are these goals. Goal number 1, no poverty. Goal number 3, good health and well-being. Goal number 4, quality education. And goal number 8, decent work and economic growth. And goal number 13, climate action. But because we started under the umbrella of peace, goal 16, that's why I'm not on my t-shirt today, Football for Peace, you would have seen it. Peace, justice, and strong institutions as goal 16. And goal 17 obviously speaks about partnership for the goals. So at Global Youth Forum, we have identified 17 spots. And we don't want to do all of them, by the way. We just want to pick 2 or 3. But we have identified 17 spots and gave each a spot. So for football, because we started under goal 16, football is supporting goal 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. And why this? If we don't have strong institutions that stand for the right values right principles, obviously we can't achieve all these other goals. But again, going back to my story, going for 2 to 3 days without food, but still expected to do things, that takes me to no poverty, goal 1. Obviously, when we are poor, we can't even go plant a tree. We are not healthy, if you see what I mean. So at Global Forum, we are working on those particular goals that I've mentioned to support the initiatives or the global picture and even other organizations working on that, on those particular goals. So as a football or as sports, we are using that as a tool to bring people, as a tool. Just like when you go fishing, Puya, you got to have a hook and you got to have something on that hook. For us, we use the sports. For now, we are capitalizing on football. And obviously, we are now, this year, we are looking to launch an archery project. So using these sports to bring people together. Once we bring them together, then we can talk about other things. But look, oh, by the way, why are you angry? Oh, why are you unhealthy, by the way? And why are you not having a job? But we do that as we play and as we do our things. So that is a bit about the alignment on the sustainable development goals, which they say needs to be achieved by 2030. But if we don't come together, we might just see that somewhere on papers. Obviously, we need to take actions. But if we don't step up to take actions and just talk about things, we might not realize the sustainable development goals. And that gap, Global Youth Forum is coming in to bring young people through sport and work on the sustainable development goals. Bit long answer there, but there we go.
That's amazing. I appreciate you walking through the way that you're connecting these 17 sustainable development goals. Yes, there's a goal set by the United Nations for all countries to meet these goals by, there's different targets for each of the goals by 2030. What you just clicked for me though is kind of the utility of the goals for nonprofits to consider, because like sport, as you mentioned, sports is and can be a vehicle for so many things in the world. And I think if left undefined, it can be also nothing. So the fact that you've thought through the different cause areas, whether it's eradicating poverty or around climate change or education, career development, partnerships, there's so many things that you mentioned, like to have that focus allows your nonprofit to then have a clear framework for defining outcomes that you want to support and drive beyond what happens, like on the field or on the ground with your organization. And you're also thinking of the much bigger picture, which I think is critical for the nonprofit sector globally to consider if we're moving towards achieving these SDGs. So I really appreciate how you've been able to take these massive global goals and then identify ways that your nonprofit in Kenya is working to support that, like locally, nationally, and then globally as well.
Yeah. And just to add, Puya, on that one, there is an initiative now that I do feel like I really need to be part of. And like we were given a chance to be part of it. It is called Football for the Goals by the United Nations, looking to bring all the stakeholders or people using football to advocate for the sustainable development goals. So my organization was accepted on that just last year. So we are partners with members of the Football for the Goals. But again, this came about because we never gave up, but we kept doing that football. We kept doing it when it was even tough, and we never quit. When COVID-19 came, we found ways to still continue using the power of sport to advocate for what we really believed in. So yeah, it has been a space to actually enjoy. So yeah.
Omondi, you have one of the strongest growth mindsets and partnership mindsets that I've ever come across in my life. Can you talk about like how you've cultivated that and how important it is to have that growth and partnership mindset and the way you just look at that subject in general?
Okay, a good one there. So I never thought I had that well, but thanks for highlighting that. But if if I had to stay out of school for 1 year and my family could not afford that, but then other people came and gave me a hand, I have been able to go to university, worked in UK with the Scouts, and supported UN initiatives, supported other international events. Now my organization is a member of a United Nations football initiative from nothing. So I feel that it doesn't matter if even I have or I don't have, but if my mind still tells me I can do something along the way, people that saw my strength and they came giving me a hand, I feel that inspires me. They saw something in me. Regardless of what was going around, they say, we got to support this young man. We got to give him a chance. And they gave me a chance. So what inspires me, I see a lot of people in my community, a lot of people in my village and all that, and they struggle. But I have come from that space, but I'm able to see the bigger picture. They might not see it, but I see it, regardless of where I came from. So my mindset is still back to when I was young and I could sneak a ball from high school to come and bring it back to my village to play. I can still do the same to now bring my or elevate my community to another level because now I'm informed. I can even speak English, by the way, where I used not to. But if I can connect people from across the globe, you were just starting and you said, probably I'm the first international you are hosting today, meaning I'm at a global stage. So my inspiration is it doesn't matter where I come from. If I just keep going, not giving up, and learn along the way, I might find something that I can give back to my people. And then when it is challenging, it prepares you for the future. Like if it is not easy, like I just go and sleep. If it is tough, I'm in. If it is something that is going to give me like sweat or I'm going to be rejected, I'm like, now look, I got somebody to convert here. If they reject me, I'm keen to turn that no to a yes. So I'm inspired. So I think that that brings my mentality of like, I just got to do this one. And if I start, I'm not going to give up, if you see what I mean in there. So I think that that drives me and gets me going every single day.
Yeah, it's and part of your growth mindset is being able to motivate and inspire yourself and you just being you and coming back to the point around like just being authentic and real is inspiring to so many other people. And I'm guessing there might be someone out there listening to this episode who's has an idea, maybe is thinking about some way that they could affect some change, whether it's just supporting something like one person or starting small, or they have maybe they have a really huge vision and they just don't know how to start. They're like, oh, that's Omondi. Omondi's amazing. Like, how can I be like that? What is it that what's the advice that you have for people across the world who may be listening, who may be thinking about getting into or starting a nonprofit, trying to make change in the world and around them?
You wish it's like it must start somewhere. I do see these articles that when it is in your brain. So sometimes they say if you write it down, you have a book and you write it down, then they say like you are halfway there. I'm like, I'm going to take another angle and say, look, if even you write it down and you don't start, or like take that action of doing something, you might not realize. So my first one will be start by doing something. Talk, yes, do all the things that you want, but take actions. As you take these actions, and all this I will anchor them about taking actions, and I will revolve again through football. You are a talented footballer, but you don't get into the field and play. No one will see you. get into the playing field and start playing so that you can attract other players and even other clubs to see what you have. And it is only through when you take those actions that people or the like-minded or these partnerships we are talking about will see who you are. And they will come and say, look, I want to work with this person because at least they have started something.
Mm-hmm.
But if people, every time you are on a table and you're like, oh, I'm thinking of an idea or I want to start, well, jump on and start. Just jump on and start and just take that action. And mine will revolve around just take the actions. And as you take those actions, good people will come your way and they will give you a hand. So I think for me, that will be my first one. And the second one, people speak about money every single time. And I've come to realize what we need is not money. It is not. What we need is probably good people who believe in what we are doing. They will connect us to the money. Every single time you find that money is driving you to do what you do, what if that money goes? Take everything out. Like, just take everything out and say, you have everything you need on this world. What else will be motivating you? Get money out of the equation and look at the other things that stands in there. So mine will be, there is money, there is resources, but what else is driving you apart from that money and things? So let money not be the first thing that drives you. The first one I did mention, just take the actions. And the third one, if I add, is get good people around you, people who are honest with you, people who will tell you like, no, this one won't work. Go think about it again. Just go think about it and come back, or get this job done. Or yeah, those three for me will stand out for the upcoming stars. But it is very possible when people are determined and they are passionate about things and they want to drive the change in their community. So I'll give those three for now. And yeah, there we go.
That's such a strong answer, such strong guidance. And, to tie it back to what you said earlier also is to make sure that it's coming from within and that it's not really motivated by any external factors of like trying to achieve wealth, money, like fame or something else. Because when you do pursue with that at the center, like things are going to fall apart very quickly, or it's just not going to be sustainable. So, Amondi, thank you for outlining that and for providing some guidance to empower the next generation of change makers around the world. Um, Part of the answers that you were giving also highlighted some of like the norms or like the status quo practices, the things that maybe like haven't changed. I'm curious to hear from your perspective, and this could be from the lens of the work that you're doing in Kenya or what you've experienced globally. Is what's like one status quo practice or like a common thing that is like just accepted as the norm in the nonprofit sector that you think we should change or would you like to see changed?
I think well, this is an interesting one. And for us in the non-profit or the social industry, we got a lot to do. But let me pick on this one. Imagine, like now, we have many, like in Kenya, I was just looking from our last call and you asked me how is the social enterprises looking like in Kenya. And we have like over 10,000 community-based organizations or 40,000 community-based organizations and 10,000 non-governmental organizations in Kenya. All of them probably a good number you find in this city. We have 10 people working on poverty, for example. How could they just, why can't they just come together and mobilize their resources, work together to eradicate poverty in that community? Why do we even need to have 40 of them? We just need one, but people come and gang up, just like in a football team. There are 11 people, they play together and they score one goal, if you see what I mean. But here, everybody wants to be all over doing their own things and not achieving results. But this is where the status quo question you ask. Look at the funding system. Obviously, I can't eat without food. Just like the non-profit or the social, we can't do anything without resources. But my thinking has always been, you look at the grants application system. People write grants. And these organizations and institutions, old enough, have been there getting these grants, getting this money, and getting these resources. But the issues they are addressing keep on escalating, going up, up, up. So you ask yourself, what is going on? So they have mastered the system. They know who is where. So anytime they send an application, it will go through. On the ground, they fail to do things, but then when the time of reporting comes, they write a good report. Oh, we have impacted 5,000 young people or youth in this particular county. And you hold them or you hold their hands and tell them, can you take us to where these 5,000 people you have impacted are? And they can't take you to even where one person is. So the change for me would be, can we stop funding the papers and fund the impact on the ground? Don't tell me that you have manipulated a report or it is well written and stuff, but on the ground there is nothing. Can we start vetting these CBOs, NGOs that claim to be good in reporting, but not effective on impacting change in the community through the funding system? So probably the evaluation and the monitoring needs to happen at the ground where the officers or the grantors actually go and see these things. And it doesn't have to be who you know in the funding industry that you give money to. Let the old organizations just fight like these new small organizations to put themselves in a position that they can get the support. So my status quo to change will be the funding system, not on the beauty of the report, but on the impact on the ground. And let the upcoming charities or social impact organizers or young people be given a chance to also streamline and be at the discussion table where funding and resources is being disbursed and is being given to the communities. Yeah, that will be mine.
That's a very thoughtful and true answer that I think also resonates with my impressions of the nonprofit sector here in the United States. I think I might have mentioned to you that part of the inspiration for the mission of Match Nice was recognizing that more partnerships, more connections between mission aligned nonprofits, businesses, communities, and the government could lead to more impact. And like really making sure that, and this is what all Match Nice is all about, is tying the dollars down to the work that's happening and the impact that we hope to see. And for you to echo that, I think is a big affirmation that this is a massive opportunity and also a massive problem. And the flow of capital, I think that you're mentioning as well, that's interesting, is we are having so much money being poured into these problems, but we're not seeing the change that you would hope to see across these cause areas. So something in this funding system isn't, and the work that's happening isn't adding up. So I appreciate you shining the light on that. Omondi, it's been a pleasure. And I just have one final question for you as we look to wrap our episode together is, and I ask this question of everyone, what is it that you would like your lasting legacy to be?
All right. Yeah, good one. My last one will be tying it with where we started. If I could go 2 to 3 days without food, expected to play football, pass exams, and just still be happy and enjoy life, I think that was really tough. And I really look back and say, if I am to leave something behind, say if I am to live for the next 40 or 50 years, if I can eradicate poverty in 500 homes in Kenya and have these homes stand alone and be able to sustain themselves and feed that young child that is 9 to 12 years old and prevent them from going from 2 to 3 days without food, where I will be a happy man. So I will say, I will rest in peace. And my friends will be like, Peter is resting in peace because he have eradicated poverty from 500 homes in Kenya, saving this number of children from going without food for 3 days so that these children can enjoy their sport, they can have a happy life, and they can realize their full potential. And what I'm going to help me do this, if I can go leaving my community sports center using a number of sports to do that in my own community or in my country, I will be like that. I've achieved and I will rest in peace. And that will be my legacy, where if yeah, there we go. I'm just excited about that. So.
Omondi Peter, it's just like such a privilege to be able to even share this time and space with you. Thank you for sharing your heart, your passion, and to the stories that you shared that of taking your own personal adversity and using it to share change, positive change in the world. And I have no doubt that you are well on your way to achieving that legacy. And I think you have thousands and thousands of supporters and believers in you. And I'm just incredibly grateful to have had this time with you and to share this connection and space. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, Omondi. Thank you for your time, your insights, your stories, and for being who you are.
And thank you too, Puya, for believing in me, giving me a chance to also just speak my mind. I call it my weird mind, just to share that. And probably it inspires one or two people out there. I'm always available for a chat, for a call. And what Much Nice is doing, I'd really love to also give a hand where I can with, because I always say together we are strong. So I must say thank you. And I look forward to engaging more. So thank you, Puya.
Together is better, Omondi. All right, we'll stay in touch, no doubt, and we'll be sure to link your nonprofit as well as your LinkedIn profile in the episode description. Omondi Peter, everybody. Huge thanks to Omondi for joining me on the show. I truly believe he represents a pinnacle of empathetic and organic nonprofit leadership. He's got one of the strongest growth mindsets I've come across and is proof of the power and potential of following your heart and vision with action to make a difference in the world. He really is the definition of what I think of when I think of the word change maker. With that, here's a quote to wrap up our episode. Every great story happened when someone decided not to give up. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this or other episodes, please consider taking a moment to like, subscribe, rate, and share the Nonprofit Lab with the change makers in your life. And with that, and as always, thank you and be well.